Welcome back. It's Tim and Julie Harris. This is Real Estate Coaching Radio, and Miss Julie Harris has got a great new topic for us to focus on today. Remember, you're going to want the notes from today's podcast and all of our podcasts. And lucky for you, the notes are available for you anytime over at harrisrealestatedaily.com. The newsletter is free. It only takes you 2 seconds to drop in your email address and a little bar on the website. If you're on your mobile, everything works the same as if you're on your desktop. Just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com and subscribe to the newsletter. And that's where you'll find all of our notes. We offer a lot of exclusive content just for newsletter subscribers, as well as the video and the podcast and all sorts of other good things. So go to harrisrealestatedaily.com. That is your absolute next urgent step, because you're going to want these notes. You're going to want all of our notes, and you want to obviously be dialed in to the massive new generational real estate boom that we are quite confident we are at the very beginning stages of experiencing. So Julie, today's podcast, I'll tee you up, okay, is called Convert Chaos to Cash, Prospecting Secrets.
That's right. And today's mission is how to carve out prospecting time. Yes, I said the word prospecting, i.e. lead generation, proactive lead generation even. How to carve out prospecting time in your hectic schedule to keep your pipeline pumping and your profits soaring. Starting with a plea from a coaching client, Sarah in Charlotte, North Carolina, who writes, I'm swamped with listings, showings, buyer calls, emails, texts, inspections, financing fires to put out. Prospecting is my lifeline, but it's the first thing to drop when chaos strikes, which seems like every day, she writes. How do I squeeze in proactive lead generation and be as efficient as possible so that my pipeline doesn't crater? Make sense?
Yeah, it does. You know, it's funny, as I was listening to you read that, how many times, and I probably put it over 5 million times. Yeah. We've had that same question. And, you know, I know you've written a lot of great points, but the reality of it is they intuitively know what the answer is, because there's other things, no matter how hectic their lives are, that they manage to get done. Bathing, brushing your teeth, you know, eating. Essentials, right? So oddly enough, no matter how hectic your day is, there are certain things that you will do.
Yes, so that 10th cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. We have to start out, I think, with the assumption that the prospecting is never going to be enjoyable. Your proactive lead generation is never going to be something you necessarily want to do. Yep. You're going to have to move it from the voluntary category in your mind to the required category in your mind, like brushing your teeth. So psychologically, mindset wise, that's going to be one of the first shifts that have to happen, because Julie's points are fantastic. But at the end of the day, if you haven't made proactive lead generation, and we're going to drill down more on all the different subpoints of this topic in a second, but if you haven't made that part of your everyday routine that happens no matter what, then it's always going to fall by the wayside to something that just, you know, flares up in your life that insists that it's more urgent and more important that you should be focusing on.
Yes, that's sometimes called creative avoidance. Sometimes it's called work theater. There's many flavors of this. That's why I wanted to make a podcast of it. And that is what you just mentioned, making it as important as brushing your teeth. That is a future point. So let's start out with number one. Your pipeline is your pipeline is your paycheck. Ditch prospecting now, and what happens? You're dry in 30, 60, 90 days, sometimes even longer than that. No listings, no closings, no cash flow. NAR's 2024 stats show that top producers prospect at least 20% more than average agents. That's your profitable edge. It's like planting commission seeds for a bumper crop.
Now, we do use the word prospecting interchangeably with the word proactive lead generation. And we do that, if we're being completely transparent, because we know that many of you, if we just simply say the word prospecting, you're just going to sort of emotionally turn off. Yep. So we've kind of put it in a nice little nerfed up package so you could easily kind of emotionally digest it. So we call it proactive lead generation, right? But really, and you know, that's right. And, you know, Julie, it's also, this is in alignment with some of the things we've talked about recently. When you really know where the business comes from, you know, most agents' business comes from, you know, folks that they've done business with before, or it's funny, I can see Max in the background.
I can.
Max is Julie's jungundus French bulldog. Anyway, so yeah, the business comes from people they've done business with before, people that are, you know, the centers of influence of past clients. And that's where you're going to be focusing your proactive lead generation to, in those groups as well, because nothing is ever going to be as effective when you're calling the two groups most likely to send you business than actually picking up the phone and having meaningful conversations. You can supplement with passive lead generation, and that is the everything else, right? That's the marketing, the advertising, the branding. But if you're going to do the proactive lead generation, because at the end of the day, no matter when you start doing 25 deals a year, 50 deals a year, 100, 250, and you're going to go and you're going to, assuming you're not just, buying all your leads from Zillow or something like that, where you're paying all your profit just to get the lead, right? When you're focusing on actually building a profitable business, you're going to realize the importance, the absolute critical importance of knowing to call your centers of influence and past clients. And that's really the heart of any agent, any top producing agent who's been in the business for any amount of time. They know that's where their business comes from and will come from. Another fun statistic for you guys, and I won't step on your points, Julie, I promise. After 5 years, the average agent, 61% of the average agent's transactions are going to come from centers of influence and past clients. And statistically, less than 10% of all agents' business comes from marketing, advertising, and branding. So if you're trying to talk yourself into doing proactive lead generation or prospecting, hopefully I just factored you with enough, creatine-induced thoughts that are going to cause you to want to actually do what you don't want to do.
Indeed, well put. And if that wasn't enough facts, point number 2 is also a mindset point backed by facts, because we like to not just speculate or say because we say so, it's because of the facts. And that's point number 2. Proactive lead generation does make you strong. NAR's March 2025 report pegs 2024 existing home sales at barely over 4 million, which is down from slightly better than that in the previous year. But they show a median price of just under 400,000. Now, here's a fact for you. The top 10% of agents, in other words, only 150,000 agents countrywide out of 1.5 million total licensed realtors, okay, they got 80% of the deals. The proactive agents got 80% of the deals. In other words, that accounts for 3.25 million sales, or $1.3 trillion of commission if we just use the average sale price of 400,000. A Redfin survey, Inman also quoted that, said that 71% of active licensed realtors sold a total of 0 homes last year, which means that 1 million licensees went without a deal. So the only question is, I promised a mindset question here, is which of those statistics would you like to participate in? Do you want to be one of those 150,000 agents that do 80% of the business because they're more proactive? Or do you want to be part of the 1 million agents that didn't even do a single deal last year?
The real bottom line,
actions.
That's right. And the real bottom line is, if you're not going to lose weight unless you change what you put, essentially the energy you expend and what you do with exercise and what you eat, you're not going to gain, net worth unless you're focused on that. You're not going to actually build your business unless you're focused on the activities that are necessary for you to build your business. And I know it's confusing because you guys get a lot of mixed messages, especially I'm speaking mostly to those of you who've been in the business for less than 3 years who are struggling. You're struggling needlessly because you're believing that you're going to be able to build your business off making yourself real estate famous, right? You're going to make yourself into some kind of influencer. Everyone tells you the same thing: make more videos, do more of this, do more of the other thing. But when you are faced with the facts like we just gave you, and we know statistically that business comes from those 2 big categories of people you've done business with in the past, or the people are referrals from friends and centers of influence and past clients. And even if you're a new agent, this still is relevant to you. We talk about this incessantly in Premier Coaching and past podcasts. But the moral of the story is, now that you have the facts, are you still going to be seduced into believing the lie that you can essentially brand your way to business? Do you really believe that? And if you do, after you've known these facts, you must not be that serious about being successful in real estate. And to Julie's answering her question, that means you're going to most likely be one of the, members of the real estate roadkill crew, the 71, that don't do transactions at all, just completely transactionalists. And statistically, by the way, those numbers are not that different than they've been for the last 5 or 6 years. Obviously, the exception being when there were 6.3 million transactions, everyone was, a lot more agents were transactional. So far this year, by the way, it looks like we're going to do mildly better in terms of total sales than we did in the previous years, but it's not going to be a humdinger in terms of resale. It's probably, we'll start seeing an uptick going into next year. That's just the realistic expectations that, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's what we're doing ourselves. And that's what we're coaching our coaching clients to do as well. And what a better time to really get warm and cozy with your centers of influence and past client than now. All right, Julie, point number 3.
Yes. Point number 3, since we're talking about that word again, prospecting, And your schedule should be reflective of your goals. In other words, actually talking to people who should be willing to transact soon. Point number 3, expireds are on the rise. RedX reports that their users saw a 12% higher conversion rate for expireds last year, and 25% of their leads, because they also do for sale by owners, 25% of the leads that came through their power dialer were for sale by owners and were most likely to list. So you've been talking a lot about past clients and centers of influence, and that's definitely true. That's a great source of business. I had a coaching call earlier today with the Kenmores. They could attribute 44% of their business so far this year is past client center of influence referral, and that is on their blended team of newer, and experienced agents. If they take a cross section of just their personal deals, because Lance still has goals of doing personal deals every month, his are nearly 100% past client and center of influence. Now, the thing with that is, and we've talked about this when we talk about lead generation, yes, of course, you need to be speaking with them regularly because they're most likely to choose you. They already know, love, and trust you. But if today you don't have somebody from that list, let's say that you talk to 5 of them, they're not raising their hand yet to transact. We go to for sale by owners. We go to expireds because 100% of them, or nearly 100% of them, have at least said, I want to sell, and many of them have to sell. So that's why we coach you to have multiple lead sources and not only hang your hat on your past clients center of influence. Agents oftentimes will say, well, somehow I just seem to get lucky. Right about the time I feel like I'm getting broke quarter after quarter because nothing happened, something will fall in my lap. But that's not a business plan. A business plan is speaking with more than just one category of people so that you can ensure that you're setting appointments who will transact with you. So keep in mind that expireds and for sale by owners are not just on the rise, but they are converting faster over the past 12 to 18 months than they ever have. Is that because the market's different? Maybe. Go ahead.
In Premier Coaching, we teach you over 20 different sources of lead generation, of proactive lead generation. We're huge advocates of proactive lead generation because the transactional, the net from each transaction is so much higher. So RedX would be our referred source, or the source that we'll suggest you go to if you're wanting to get expired phone numbers and addresses and all that market data. So just go to Red. Actually, the quick and easy button, and you can save $150, is to text the word RED to 47372. Text the word on your cell phone right now, RED, to 47372, and we'll text you back a link. And when you click the little link, it's going to take you to their website, and then you will be getting the $150 discount. That's something that they do to sponsor the podcast. So just text the word RED, RED, to 47372. And what RedX is, like I said, it's a system that's going to go into your MLS on a daily basis so that when you wake up in the morning, all the newest expireds are going to be waiting on your computer ready for you to call. It's going to give you the phone numbers. It's going to give you usually a lot of phone numbers. It's cell phone numbers included. It's going to give you all the property information. A couple little, I think, interesting angles on all of that is you want to be calling the older expireds. You want to be calling the older, more expensive expireds. All these things we teach you guys in Premier Coaching. Use our scripts for setting the appointment. And we get often asked if we were to get back into the real estate business, and we do, ponder it sometimes, especially in an area where you had a really high sale price, right? I mean, that's kind of tempting. But we ask, we are asked, what would we do? And we've already told you. Number one thing we would do is centers of influence and past clients. Definitely proactive lead generation, center of influence, past client activities, formal and informal, and we definitely go after the expired. So that was 100% what we would do. We would do minimal marketing and branding. We would do some social media stuff, just to support the proactive lead generation, but we would just drill down. And the way Julie and I did it when we actually prospected, when we were selling real estate, is we would play a little game, and whoever set the first listing appointment that day, pre-qualified listing appointment, they won. And the winner, so then the person who didn't set the appointment had to make the winner dinner. That was the way it worked.
Make it more fun, right?
And when we had 4 cats, this was the horrible part. Get ready. So we had 4 cats, and this was when we first got married and we were selling real estate. This is PZ, pre-Zoe. So what we would do is the cat boxes, 4 cats. You're talking about a lot of
Ew.
cat box needs. And so we would give it a weekly total, and whoever set the most appointments that particular week didn't have to change the cat boxes, and the loser had to change the cat boxes. And that kept all of us incredibly motivated.
Very motivational.
Yeah. It wasn't you win, it was you lose a
You
lot. If
lose.
you that's right. All right. So yeah, have fun with it. That's the
Yeah,
point. And you can have some accountability partners, all these things you guys are going to learn more
that's right.
about when you join Premier Coaching. All right. By the way, just go ahead and text the word red RED to 47372 because Red X is without a doubt something that all of you guys should have in your toolbox. And this is what a better time of year to be going after expired listings.
Oh yeah.
Remember, I told you, go after older, more expensive expired listings. When you sign up with RedX, ask them to sell you the leads, the expired leads that are 6 months or 12 months old, and just scrub to make sure they haven't been relisted. And those are gold, I promise you guys. Oh, I'll give you another one too. This is something else we teach you guys in Premier Coaching. There are a ton of what we call reluctant landlords out there, folks that didn't sell their homes, that have that are renting or trying to rent for rent by owners, right? That want to sell their homes. If you were to call them and ask them if they and use our scripts, you call the for rent by owners, you're going to find a lot of them would be happy to sell the house, and a lot of them were, guess what, expired listings, or they're for sale by owners. All these things. So guys, really strap on the mindset that you can control your own destiny as a listing agent, by the way, doing proactive lead generation. All right, Julie, I know you're on a bit of a time crunch today, so let's get to the next point.
Yes. Okay. So, as usual, we escalate the seriousness of our points as we get going. So, point number 4, here's where the rubber meets the road. This is what Sarah at the top of the podcast was asking for help with. Find the time, lock in at least 1 power hour a day. I don't care how many closings you're juggling, inspections, lions, tigers, and bears, and appraisals, and the whole thing. Been there, done that. Remember, we sold houses for a living. Okay. Absolutely feel your pain on that. But when you take it very seriously, okay, it makes a huge difference. So here's where that point goes. Block at least 60 minutes a day. More is fine, but at least 60 no matter what happens. 8 to 9 a.m. ideally, so that you're sure that you did it with your proactive lead generation for sale by owners, expireds, your sphere, a combination of all those. Now, Zillow says that morning outreach snags a 10% higher pickup rate. I think that that varies depending on where you are. You know, it seems like California agents really like very first thing in the morning. Maybe that's because they're
Let's
used to
talk
getting
about
up to
that though.
surf. I don't know.
But Julie, no,
Yeah, go ahead.
let's drill down on that. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you're working in a community that's a bedroom community to a major city, and you know people take a while to drive to work, well, you're going to have to time that correctly. But so it does make sense that generally speaking, if you're calling an expired, for example, and you're calling, FISBOs are a lot easier because they're going to call you back. But if you're calling an expired, you want to always be the first person that calls them the day of the expired, because they're not going to know their listing expired in most cases. And so when you call them and the previous listing agent didn't call them to let them know that their house expired, you're going to have a huge advantage over what would have been your biggest competitor. So your biggest competitor when you're listing expireds, or or going on to listing appointments in general, are going to be the seller's center of influence and past client agent, the person they know from church or whatever. But once that agent has failed, and they failed to tell the seller that the listing officially expired, it's pretty much a layup for you at that point, provided you follow our 7-step listing process. You're going to pre-qualify, you're going to deliver the pre-listing pack, the whole thing. So go through the work, make sure you're taking the time to follow our system that comes with Premier Coaching. But I'm going to give you guys some advanced proactive lead generation ideas. Write these down. All right. So obviously your goal is to make contact, right? So when are you going to be able to make the most contact? Julie, and it's true, in the morning, generally speaking, for the reasons I just stated, but you might be able to make more contact on Saturday morning. You might make more contact on sometimes in the evening. Make more contacts to the point where you're able to set an excessive a number of listing appointments in excess of the number that you actually need to set your goal for your real estate magic number, which is the number of listings you need all the time to meet or exceed your financial goals and obligations. And we talk about that again in Premier Coaching. But other times that you can call, if there's a change of the month where the first day and the last day is on the weekend, like I think we're coming up on one of those, aren't we, Julie? I think
Probably.
we
I
are.
have to look at
Let
the
me look at the
calendar.
calendar. I think we are. Yep, we are. Okay, so
That's
look,
perfect.
right. So the end of March is on a Saturday, and then is that Saturday and Sunday? Yeah, it's Saturday and Sunday. So
Mhm.
the end of the
Perfect.
month basically falls on, well, the last day of the month is on a Monday, but the end of the month falls over a weekend. So anytime at the end of the month falls on a weekend, that's a great time to go to expireds because people are going to be easier to get because they're going to be at home. And a lot of agents will never even think of picking up the phone on the weekends.
And
But
a
I'll
lot
give,
of expireds happen on the last day and the first day
right.
because agents set their listing agreement to expire at the end or at the beginning of the month. So that's why we're saying it's not just a great time to, anytime you call on the weekend is a great time to find people home, but it's especially great when the month changes because you have a higher volume of expireds to
That's
go
right.
after.
This time
So
of year, you're going to see it in some markets. It's hundreds of expireds are going to show up over the last 3 days of the month. And go to RedX, text RED 47372, and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right. So now here's where it gets even more interesting, where the end of the month and the beginning of the month are over a holiday. Why? Because again, everyone's going to be home. Generally speaking, they're going to be in a good mood. Some weekends or some holidays are more sort of travel holidays. Thanksgiving, for example, a
like
lot of people.
Memorial Day is a great weekend to be
Perfect.
home. Yeah.
Exactly. So if it's over a holiday, if it's over in the end of the month, beginning, you guys getting what I'm getting at here? It's intuitive. So just think what times of the year are they're going to be the most expired. It's going to be during the end of the month and the beginning of the month. So in winter, most people are going to be home in good moods. When the end of the month and the beginning of the month fall over holidays and themselves,
Mhm.
conceptually, this is the way you can get an advantage. Now, let me give you guys a mindset point. If your goal is to set a listing of, this is advanced coaching here, but just open your mind to it. If every single day, and this is where we take our, elite coaching clients, if their goal is to set one pre-qualified listing appointment a day, and for some reason they let somebody or something ruin their ability to set 5 listing appointments, and they only end up setting 3 listing appointments, then the real, the next level is going to make up those 2 lost listing appointments by prospecting on Saturday morning. Now, some of you, the art and the science of this is, okay, how many dials to contacts, contacts to appointment sets to pre-qualified listing appointments to listings taken, right? So that's the waterfall that you go through. But I'll tell you, if you want advanced player mode, here's what you do. You are going to proactively lead generate until you set a pre-qualified listing appointment every single day. Because otherwise, you're going to celebrate the wrong thing. And this happens all the time with people that are starting out prospecting. They're going to celebrate making the contacts. No, don't celebrate making the contacts.
Or
Good for
worse,
you.
the dials.
Right, exactly. Oh, I made 1,000 dials this week. Who cares?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, your system made the dials for you. But how many contacts did you make? Well, I made 100 contacts. Okay, that's going the right direction. How many appointments did you set? None. But I made 100 contacts. Okay, you're focusing on the wrong thing. The thing to focus on is how many pre-qualified listing appointments you set. And so when you're, again, if you really want to put yourself into the maximum, into the mindset where you're going to obtain success the quickest, that's the key, is make it so that you are the game is to set one pre-qualified listing appointment a day. Now I'll tell you what I personally do, and I did, and I had coaching clients do the same. This is if you choose to. After you've set one pre-qualified listing appointment a day, if you choose to, you can stop prospecting. Now, psychologically, the best time to, that's the worst time to stop prospecting because you're going to be riding on a sugar high from setting one pre-qualified listing appointment, and you want to get back on the phone because your energy will probably make it so you set more that day. But if you need a little, reprieve from having to make more contacts that day, if you set one pre-qualified listing appointment for that day, you're done. And once you're done, you can use that time allotted for doing lead follow-up or, whatever the heck you want to do. That's a little reward rather, that some of you will want to set to motivate yourselves to set pre-qualified listing appointments faster versus saying, I'm going to make 20 contacts or 30 contacts today, because then you won't necessarily set any appointments. Julie, did I just say your
Well,
point?
uh, it's really amazing when we give that to a coaching client. It's like you're releasing them from contactitis
Yep.
because there are people, it's not just agents that come up with that on their own. There's like trainers, gurus, whatever, that say, you're terrible if you don't make 50 contacts a day or 20 contacts a day or whatever. Again, focusing on the wrong thing. The miracle that happens when you do what you just shared with them, again, advanced coaching, just focus on the appointment. Here's what happens. The quality of their calls is so much better because they're like laser focused. I don't want to have to make 20 contacts. I know that if I'm talking to 10, especially say for sale by owners and expireds, if I'm talking to 10 of them, I have 10 opportunities to set at least one listing appointment. I might even get two. Now, that's a different mindset than I got to get through 10 contacts, right? The quality of their calls, their scripting, and I would say, having listened to a lot of these, because my coaching clients and the coaches send me calls to listen to, what also happens is they ask better questions. They like the pre-qualifying questions, the prospecting questions. They listen more carefully for real motivation because they're looking for something. How can I help this person? They're truly,
they're operating intuitively. But you realize
yes.
what you're saying, right, Julie? You're
And one
saying,
more thing. And they also close harder than they did when they were just making contacts.
so in other words, what you're saying is when they're focused on setting an appointment and not just making contacts, they're
Yeah.
actually doing what they don't want to do when they don't want to do it at the highest level. And
That's the
so
difference.
are you
It's the
guys
highest
getting it?
level that comes out when you release them from contactitis. When
Right.
I say as a coach, I don't care. I mean, go you if you said it on your first call. That's fantastic. You did a great job. Go get a milkshake, do whatever. Okay. I agree with you though that, and I've seen this happen with coaching clients, and I think it happened with us as well, is you don't have to keep on the phone for like another hour to get through a bunch more contacts, but you should challenge yourself every time you set a pre-qualified listing appointment, just stay on the phone 10 minutes longer or just make two more contacts and see what happens. You're highly likely to set the next appointment. And then you're really celebrating because you set two qualified appointments today. It's a lot. I would say to me, I don't know what you think about this, but I think once you are mostly over your phone fear, right? So let's say that they push through that and you're using script, so you're not winging it. Once you've gotten through that, it's still about 80% mindset and 20% how you handle the call. It's like, how are you thinking about the call? We talked about this when we talk about lead follow-up. If you're just trying to get through your lead follow-up, you're probably not going to set an appointment. If you've got a stack of, I've got all these calls I got to get through, I got my pre-qualification questions. If I'm just like trying to get done with it, I'm probably not going to land the plane on appointments. But if I instead in my head say, okay, I'm not even calling it lead follow-up, I'm calling it appointment setting, I'm probably going to set more appointments that way. So to me, it's like 80% in your head. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's what we just said, right? It's if you want ever increasing levels of success in your business and personal life, you have to do what you don't want to do, which is going to be prospecting. You're never going to want to do it.
Ever.
When you don't want to do it, which is going to be all the time because you never want to do it. Just being honest here, we've been doing this for a long time, Julie and I and all of our coaches at the highest level. And I emphasized this before, but I'm emphasizing it again. And I'm just asking you to consider if your goal was to set one pre-qualified listing appointment per day, that becomes your new routine. That's your brushing of your teeth and your, all the other things, right? That's what you have to do every single day. My job in real estate is to set one pre-qualified listing appointment a day. All right. And I cannot stop doing the proactive lead generation until I've set one pre-qualified listing appointment a day. What comes from that? I mean, you will, let's say you're not that good on listing appointments. You only take 3 out of 5 appointments you set. Heck, you set 5 appointments. One of them cancels. You go on 4, you take 2. You take 8 new listings per month, right? No buyer side, just straight up listings. And the average list price is $500,000. And you're going to make, I'll just pick a number, $10,000 per transaction.
I have the math at the end.
Okay.
Yes.
You have it?
I do.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, but you guys get the point here. So what would you stop doing? Like, and here's another little thing. It's so funny you and I say these things, Julie, because it means that ultimately we're maybe making real estate seem overly simple, and everybody else wants it to be complicated. But here's the truth. You don't have to be, you can be really, really, really terrible at most things that people tell you that you need to be really, really good at in real estate. But here are the things you do need to be really good at. Proactive lead generation's got to be number one. Pre-qualifying. Okay. You have to be really good at pre-qualifying, knowing motivations. We give you all this in Premier Coaching, and then following the rest of the system. But, sending the pre-listing pack, you have to be really good at listing presentations. Again, we teach you how to do that. Not hard. In this market, you're also going to need to know how to, give buyer presentations to buyers, but just focusing on sellers. And then, basically that's the extent of it. If you're going to a listing appointment, you're good at giving listing presentation, you're naturally going to be good at getting the paperwork signed. And after that, guys, in this market, with a few exceptions, the rest of the real estate things, all the things that you think are important are not important. And you could be either A, not do them. And you did hear me just say that, or B, delegate it to somebody to do it for you. And if they only do a half-baked job, it doesn't really matter, because the most important thing is knowing how to be a proactive lead generator, pre-qualifier, and a presenter and a closer. You do those 4 things really well, you can forget the rest. You really can, because you'll make so much money, and Julie Harris is going to prove it to you.
Well, you can delegate the other stuff to, you can have a referral buyer partners for your buyers.
Yep.
You can delegate your transaction coordination to either a TC, an app, a combination of the two, or that plus AI. You really don't have any excuses at this point, right? Now, let's hover on this point number 4. I really appreciate all of the color that you're putting on this. Point number 4 was find the time, lock in at least 1 power hour. But here is how serious we need you to be. Treat your prospecting time like a non-reschedulable appointment. Treat it like you do a listing appointment. You would never reschedule a listing appointment. Sometimes they reschedule on you, but you're not the one that's always pushing the appointment back. You would never show up late for it. You would never skip it. You would never say, oh, I'll get to that listing tomorrow. It's like the best appointment you can make in real estate, right? You're not going to just shove, oh, I'm not going to take that seriously. You're not going to hit, delay on your pop-up reminder.
Well,
that's how seriously you have to take it.
Imagine you have to catch a plane, and the plane is going to take you to someplace you've always wanted to be. The plane takes off at 10 a.m. You guys see how your entire world, the universe, is now all adjusting itself around that 10 a.m. flight.
You get everything done, don't you?
You do. And because you really want to go, and that's the only plane flight, excuse me, there for like 2 weeks. And if you miss this plane, you're going to miss your vacation or whatever it is you've always wanted to go. You get it? You need to have that level of urgency around, as Julie calls, the hour of power. But if you're able to set a pre-qualified appointment in the first 10 minutes, then it's your 10 minutes of power. Adjust accordingly.
Yes, that's even better. And by the way, don't use the things that we've coached you on. This isn't real. This is our podcast, but don't use the things like Tim was saying, weekends where there's holidays are golden. That's fantastic. Don't be like, well, that's when I'm going to prospect. That's in addition to your daily hour of power, right?
You got to do it every single day. It has to become habitual. That's the main thing. You can't just do this when you need the business, or you're feeling slow, or you're out of options. You will be broke if you act that way. Every single flipping day, you've got to wake up, you've got to brush your teeth, you've got to exercise. Guys, in life, there's only about 5 things you actually really need to do at a high level, and setting a pre-qualified appointment per day is definitely one of them. And so, Julie, you got the math ready to present to them?
Almost. That's the very last point, I think. But let me do just this one. You mentioned this. This is point number 5, add at least 1 hour in the evening on a weekday and 1 hour on a Saturday or Sunday morning to catch people whose phone numbers work, but you're constantly leaving them voicemail, or you've left voicemail and now it's kind of weird to keep leaving voicemail, but the phone number works. You can also door knock them on the weekend or in the evening, but don't give up. To me, that's a great thing. That there's no other agent that's calling them, or they're hitting voicemail too. And the ones that you don't have phone numbers for, if they're really good, meaning geographically, price range, sellable neighborhood, you should be door knocking those.
So some of you guys you should probably, obviously everyone's on their cell phones nowadays. You're going to be calling from your cell phone. The problem you're going to run into a lot of times is if you're not in their phone book, which you probably won't be, then it's on some cases, it's going to feed it automatically to spam or automatically to their voicemail. There are systems that you can get out there. There are apps. Don't ask me for the names of them. I don't know. But you can go research this yourself, where when you call somebody, their caller ID is going to recognize it's Julie Harris that's calling. And it's going to have her phone numbers as if she was in their directory already. I know that there's I researched this actually last week for a different podcast that Julie and I are writing, but I didn't come up with what was perceived to be the best. But I know that there's a lot of different apps you can get to do this that, again, gets you past the you're not in my directory, I'm not answer. Gets you past the, spam block caller, gets you past all those things, and they can see who it is. It's not like, there's the picture, there's the, all the contacts, and now they feel like they know you, and they feel like you are in you're appearing because you must be in their directory, and they're going to answer the phone. So don't let essentially what I just said, don't let that be your excuse not to call. And Julie did say something else there. You can always go and door knock. Right? I mean, our friends in Canada, I know calling expireds is not as easy, but there's no such thing as a do not knock.
That's right. And when you're doing that, always have a handwritten card ready to go. You can pre-handwrite like 10 of them. Sorry, I missed you. It looks like a beautiful home. Sometimes the best homes don't sell the first time around, not for the reasons that you might think. Call me today if you still have to sell. Here's my mobile number. Handwritten, nice stationery, not too realtor-y, very, high quality, good touch. So if they're not home, at least they knew that you were there. Let's see. I'm going to skip number 8 and 9 because I'll get that in the newsletter, and we've touched on both of them. I'm sorry, number 7 and 8. Number 9 is stack your quick wins. You talked about this earlier, trying to make it fun, right? It doesn't have to be like, oh, Tim and Julie said that I was supposed to prospect on weekdays between 8 and 9. It's 9:15 now, so I'm not going to do it. I missed that.
Exactly.
No, you've got to try and make it fun. So stack up some quick wins. 15 proactive lead generation calls in 30 minutes. Could you do it? Okay. You could, if you have phone numbers. You're not going to talk to every single one, but you could reach out to 15 for sale by owners in 30 minutes or in an hour. Maybe you want to mix it up and you circle prospect around your own listings or coming soons. Okay. I just hung up with a client in Texas. They have an unbelievably great listing coming. Nobody even knew it was for sale. It's lakefront. It's got all of the things. It's going to be a fresh rehab. That's a great, we don't generally believe in circle prospecting. That's like cold calling, just listed, just sold. But when it's around your own listings and sales, especially a coming soon in the neighborhood where they have 3 other listings, that's golden. So make it fun, right? Maybe you're stuck in line, or, often I'm driving to school and I'm in traffic for 20 minutes and we're not even inching. So I don't even have to worry about what's going on around me. You guys sitting in traffic where it's going to be at least 15 minutes, do some lead follow-up or contact that for sale by owner you keep on driving past. Try and make it more fun. Okay, so squeeze in every minute. And then here's the math. Last point today, the math that hits home. So here's what you could do if you take this seriously, when you take this seriously, especially when you are backed with Premier Coaching so that you can bring your questions to your coach every day. Convert just one listing lead weekly to a real listing. That's 52 deals a year. The average U.S. listing side commission so far is 2.7%. That's according to Housing Wire, Inman, and NAR. Okay. So one deal based on the average sale price of $400,000 is worth $10,800. Okay. You do that 52 weeks. That's between $500,000 and $600,000 of commission income.
That's just off the listing side.
That's just on the listing side.
Right.
Let's say that you're only 50% good at this. It's still $250,000 worth of your, commission. Now, let's say, so then you can take that and you can figure out, let's say that you're getting used to this. You're on the phone a lot. You're chasing people down and you're actually working 40 hours a week. And we know the truth. Many of you don't, but let's just say that it's 40 hours a week. Even if it is 40 hours a week, 50 weeks, that's 2,000 hours. You're still making $280 an hour. Okay. Yep. Now let's say that you're really efficient. RedX, for example, says that when you're good at your expired scripts, the average expired call takes 5 minutes or less. When you're using the scripted questions and you're closing, you're talking to a motivated person. Okay. So when you do that, 5 minutes, that's 12 calls per hour. You close one of those per week and you're making $900 an hour. In other words, not taking this seriously and not doing it, that's what it literally is costing you. And that's using an average sale price of $400,000. Some of you have double, triple, or quadrupled that for an average sale price.
We talked about the newsletter. We talked about where the points are that we did not present to you are in the newsletter notes. So make sure you subscribe to harrisrealestatedaily.com. And also we obviously talk about Premier Coaching on every single podcast. Mm-hmm. Make sure you're joining Premier Coaching. Thousands of you are. So Premier Coaching is definitely your way forward if you're ready to take the full advantage of this marketplace. There's undoubtedly going to be more activity and more opportunity because of this changing market. And frankly, because a lot of agents don't know what the heck to do. So you're going to have more, I think, momentum behind helping more people and making more money than you've ever experienced before, certainly in the last 3 to 4 years. But you have to know what to say. You have to be educated. You have to be motivated. And I'm going to give you guys a little secret here. If you're not motivated to do this work, welcome to the club, right? That's called normal. But be motivated.
That's why it's called work.
That's right. Exactly. And don't wait around to feel passion for calling expireds or picking up the phone at all. That's never going to happen. Now, Julie told you $10,800. Okay. So $10,800 is your average commission. I'm going to guess that you could probably find some things that you would be motivated by to feel passionate about as a result of your efforts that you make by doing what you didn't want to do when you didn't want to do it at the highest level. And I just hopefully helped you guys form some neuro pathways. And I'm going to say this for the 4th time in today's show because it's really important. If you want ever increasing levels of success in your business and personal life, you have to do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. And don't make the mistake of thinking you have to feel passionate about it before you're going to do it, let alone get good results for it. Remember, we kept on emphasizing at the highest level. You guys getting this? because you will probably never feel passionate about the things that it really takes to be successful in real estate or in life in general. You'll never feel that level of passion that's necessary to maintain the momentum or maintain the effort to build the momentum. But do feel passion for what comes as a result of your efforts. It's going to be great when you feel successful and more successful. It's going to be great when you take the listing. It's going to be great when you get the recognition, but where it's really going to be great is when you start making tens of thousands per month, then hundreds of thousands per month. And then you follow the plan that we've written in our book, Harris Rules, and you learn how to obviously, accumulate more wealth and invest and all the rest of it. But it all takes it starts the fundamental building block of, frankly, being a listing agent, and then being a listing agent that's proactively lead generated and focused, because that's where you're going to get your biggest margins. And so we all have coaching clients that'll come to us. They say, Tim, I don't want to, have a bunch of buyer agents. Fine. Tim, I don't want to work buyers anymore. I want my nights and weekends back. Fine. I am willing to proactively lead generate. I've done it in the past. I know it works, and you guys help me get better. Yeah, that's right. That's what we'll do. So what am I going to do with the little buyer leads that come from it? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hire someone that's going to essentially, well, frankly, you can do it yourself. You should call your leads back and pre-qualify and find out how many of them are sellers. And the ones that are just straight up buyer leads, refer those off to other agents in your marketplace for up to 40% referral fee. You've pre-qualified them, you've called them back, you know what their motivation level is, you know they have no house to sell. It's a straight up buyer lead. Refer that to another agent in your marketplace, and then charge that agent 40%. I think 40% is ridiculous, but that's what Zillow charges agents. So if agents are willing to pay 40%, you're giving a 40%, you're giving a pre-qualified buyer lead away, charge 40%. And here's what's staggering. You will make, if you're thinking about building a big team, do the math on this, prove it to yourself. You'll oftentimes be able to make way more money when you focus your business like what we just described to you in the podcast today. And then don't build a buyer agent team. There, I said it. But do refer your buyer leads out to other agents. Now, if you're at eXp Realty, that's a great way for you to build a team without necessarily having to be responsible for them, because these are just referring agents. But maybe to get the referral, they have to, or get their buyer referral, they have to be part of your eXp Realty group. You guys get it? That's just for eXp agents. But conceptually, what we're doing is we've created a very simple to follow and easy to understand business plan that will give you your nights and weekends back, that will produce way more net profit and give you a pathway forward. So you are working normal working hours. Agents that don't work normal working hours, they don't set boundaries, but more importantly, it's because they're working with a lot of buyers. If you're a buyer's agent, you're giving up your nights and weekends because that's when those buyers have time to look at houses, and you're giving up your family time, and you're giving up your, all the things. You don't have to do that. Those are all voluntary decisions that you can unmake if you've already made them. Focus on being a powerful listing agent. Join Premier Coaching. We obviously help you do the marketing, the branding, and help you build your teams and all the rest of it. But really where you're going to get to in your mind when you've been in this business long enough is what I just told you, because after not usually that much time, you're going to come to the realization that what Julie and I have been saying for decades is absolutely true. And yeah, it's nice to get recognition, and it's nice to feel real estate famous. But what it's really nice to do is have the money and the financial security to be able to spend time with the people that you want to, your family and your friends.
To do what you do want to do, when you want to do it, with whom you want to do it at the highest level. So yes, I mean, and
exactly.
I have to say, as you were talking, I was thinking about like our elite coaching clients who have been systematically implementing all of these things, many of them over years, right? Because talk about a lot of things, and what your business looks like 3, 4, 10, 15, 20 years in is totally different than when you start out. So there's lots of things to work on. They are living that life. And I was thinking, as you were talking about delegating buyers, I think probably 80% of my elite coaching clients are one-on-one clients. The only time they're personally working with buyers is if it's a listing of theirs, oftentimes buying one of their other listings, so they have multiple touches there, and or direct center of influence referrals, or maybe some high-end relocation, something like that. But they are choosing who they want to work with, and they have those referral partners for buyers. It's not that they're, I can't help you. They're not doing that. They're doing a high-quality, pre-qualified referral. And you're right about the 40%. I have some coaching clients that do it at 50%. After they've done all of the questions, you're handing over somebody that's absolutely going to transact. They're not talking to other agents. They're highly motivated. They've got their financing in place. That's a really good quality lead. People will pay 40 or 50% on those.
And what do agents say? Well, I'm not going to be able to build my center of influence and pass client database. Why not? You referred that buyer lead off to Bob. You could still put that buyer lead after they close.
Sure.
You can make it so Bob has to close the deal through your transaction coordinator. Or at the very least, you keep in contact with that buyer that Bob closed that you referred to Bob. And that person goes in your database. Do you guys really think that in 4 years or 5 years, Bob's probably not in the business anymore? And when that seller or that buyer who's now a seller wants to put their house for sale because you've been keeping in contact with them, you in essence kept them as your client, even though you referred them off, they're going to do business with you again. Bob's, off in Bob land. And so that's really the way it works. Don't use that as an excuse not to at least consider what we're sharing with you on the
Right.
podcast. So guys, remember to like, subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. Thank you for all the wonderful 5-star reviews. Thank you for continuing to allow Julie and I to be in alignment with our highest and truest purpose, which is being of service to all of you guys. Have a fantastic day, and we'll talk with you on the show tomorrow. Oh, by the way, tomorrow is Freaky Fun Friday.
You've been warned.
You've been warned. All right, have a great day, guys.